At this point, I'm sure you're familiar with creating data shortcuts for a typical Civil 3D project. Fortunately, when Civil 3D projects are hosted in the cloud, the workflow for creating the shortcuts remains the same. The only difference is where you point the working folder. In this session, we'll learn how to create data shortcuts in a cloud-based Civil 3D project. First, we'll talk about how data shortcuts are typically stored on a local server. On a local server, it's possible to store multiple Civil 3D projects within a single folder. For my example, we'll assume I have a folder representing the current year. And inside that folder, I might have a folder for each Civil 3D project worked on in that year. Each Civil 3D project folder will also have a folder inside it called Shortcuts. This folder stores the XML files Civil 3D uses to keep track of drawings having shared content. In addition to the Shortcuts folder, most firms will also have a typical directory structure that they use for each project. Now, to create or reference data shortcuts, Civil 3D simply needs to be pointed to a specific project. We do that by selecting a working folder. Using the example on screen, let's assume I wanted to point Civil 3D to the 75th Street project. I would start by setting the working folder to 2020. Civil 3D would then show me the names of every folder inside that also includes a Shortcuts folder. From the list of names, I would select my desired project, and Civil 3D would automatically recognize the data shortcuts. So, how is this different when working in the cloud? First, we have to acknowledge that the cloud represents a completely different environment than our local server. For that reason, it operates under a different set of rules. In BIM 360, each project is essentially a root-level folder. Therefore, it's not possible to store multiple Civil 3D projects within a single directory. So, how does this affect data shortcuts? Well, when you point Civil 3D to a project having data shortcuts, you'll need to select a working folder inside the project directory rather than outside. That is the difference. Let's take a closer look by walking through the process. For this example, I'd like to create data shortcuts for these three alignments in my Route 25 improvements project. Before I get started, let me mention that you'll need a BIM 360 design subscription to create or reference data shortcuts in the cloud. Having that license is what allows me to do most of what we'll see in this session. Alright, to create the data shortcuts, I first need to add a Shortcuts folder to my project. I'll do that by selecting the Manage tab, and then I'll click Set Working Folder. And I'll navigate to BIM 360, I'll select my account, and then I'll select the Route 25 Improvements project. Remember that when you're in the cloud, the working folder is located inside the project. For my example, I'll set the Project Files folder as the working folder because it represents the highest level folder in the project. I will then click the Select Folder button. Now that Civil 3D is pointing to the Route 25 project, I'll select New Shortcuts folder to create the Shortcuts folder inside. Right here, we can see that we're working within the Project Files folder. Now let's talk about the name. Typically, this name represents the folder name used to host a Civil 3D project on a local server. In this case, though, we're not working local. This is a cloud project that already has an established folder structure, albeit a simple one at the moment with only 2 directories. Since I'm working in a cloud project, when I assign a name here, I'm simply creating a new folder for the purpose of holding data shortcut information. Let's call the folder Route 25 C3D Design. I will also skip the project template option because I've chosen in this series to create and manage my folders using BIM 360. When I'm finished, I'll click OK. Now, if I visit the prospector, I can see that the data shortcuts are pointed to my BIM 360 project. It also displays a cloud icon as a reminder that the shortcuts are stored in the cloud. Before I create my shortcuts, let's pull up Windows Explorer and take a quick look at the folders I just made. From Windows Explorer, I'll navigate to BIM 360. I'll select my account and the Route 25 project. If I open Project Files, which also happens to be the current working folder, in here I'll see the new Route 25 C3D Design folder. If I open this, we'll find the standard Shortcuts folder and XML files that Civil 3D uses to manage data shortcuts. When finished reviewing the new folders, I'll close Windows Explorer and return to Civil 3D. At this point, even though I'm working in the cloud, the creation of data shortcuts is the same as if I was working on a local server. To share these alignments, I'll visit the Manage tab and I'll click the Create Data Shortcuts button. In the dialog box, I'll click to select all of the alignments and I'll click OK. When finished, I'll visit the Data Shortcuts area of the prospector and I'll expand the Alignments group. Here I can see the 3 shortcuts I just created. If I select one of these and drag out the tool space a bit, from here I can hover over the source location and see the saved path to the cloud drawing containing the alignment. These alignments can now be referenced or dragged into any project drawings by any remote stakeholder having a BIM 360 design subscription. Let's try it. I'm going to start a new drawing from a template. Let's assume this drawing is going to be used to create profiles of the roadway design. I will then save this drawing inside the project. You can see that we are still working inside the Route 25 project directory. I'll call the drawing Profiles, and before I click Save, notice there's a new drawing in here called Topo. Alan Gilbert must have uploaded this file within the last minute. This is actually perfect because I can use this topo to create my profiles. For now, I'm going to click Save to save the Profiles drawing. To reference the alignments, I'll expand the Alignments category and I'll expand Centerline Alignments. I will then click the first alignment. I'll hold my Shift key and click the last alignment to select them all, and then I'll click and hold on one of the icons and drag and drop these into the drawing. I will then double-click the mouse wheel to do a zoom extents. Now let's see if Alan created a data shortcut for the topo drawing. I'll do that by right-clicking on Data Shortcuts, and I'll choose Refresh to refresh the view. Right here I can see a surface has been added. If I expand this, it looks like the surface is called EG. This is perfect. Same as with the alignments, I'll select the shortcut and then I'll drag and drop it into my drawing to create the reference. Finally, we'll sample a quick surface profile for Route 25. I'll do that by selecting the alignment, and from the contextual ribbon, I'll choose Surface Profile. I'd like to use the Route 25 alignment to sample the EG surface. I'll click Add. I will then click Draw in Profile View, Create Profile View, and I'll click to place the profile view on screen. As you can see, even though my Civil 3D project is stored in the cloud, the creation and referencing of data shortcuts essentially remains the same. Now that we understand how cloud-based data shortcuts are managed, we're ready to talk about some of the cloud nuances having to do with external references. And we'll do that in the next session. Would you like to explore additional Autodesk Cloud collaborative ideas and workflows? If so, please visit the AEC Connection blog by scanning the QR code or by following the URL listed below.